Welcome to Ball is Wife. My name is Andrea Hurley, wife of Dan Hurley, UConn men's basketball coach.
And hi, my name is Nicole Kellogg. I am wife of Derek Kellogg, head coach at LIU Brooklyn Basketball. And we are here to talk about anything and everything, all sports, everything except X's and O's.
Yes, we are. Okay. Today, we're going to give you a little intro of who we are and how we got here. Right, Nicole?
Yes.
Because you know what, like everybody knows who our husbands are, whatever, and you might, know their story, but you don't know how we got here. And you might have heard it before, so fast forward, but we just wanted to get it out there, put it out there for us to just keep building up our little, who we are. So
yes, we're going to give a little background today about ourselves, where we started on this college basketball journey, all the way up to present, all the places we've been, and, building upon all the reasons that we came up with this bright idea to do this podcast. With, the common goal is to help support other coaches' wives. Like, we really want to build a sorority, a team, a family. We think we're all in this together. So, that's where we're at. So I'll just start. I will give my background. I grew up in New York. I came from a sports-oriented family. All sports, football, baseball, least of all college basketball. I will say my family didn't watch a ton of college basketball.
same.
Yeah. And then I went to UMass, and I had the privilege of being a student at UMass during the Calipari era. So I was a student from 1991 to 1995. They were the absolute best days at UMass basketball wise. And I became, nonetheless, a gigantic basketball fan during that time. And then in which case I met Derek. So he was a player, starting point guard. Andrea knows, she has the same story. And it kind of started from there. I fell in love with college basketball at UMass for sure. I was a fan. I was a student fan. I did all the things. I waited online for tickets at midnight. I got to witness the final Rage in the Cage at UMass, which was incredible. If you're a UMass fan, you know all about these things. I watched Marcus Camby play and just, had the pleasure of both. I dated Derek, and I also was able to share that with all my friends at UMass and be like a crazy fan. So from there, we moved on. Derek knew for sure, he kind of knew he wasn't going to play in the NBA, and that was okay. So he directed it towards coaching, and he actually started his first coaching career as a mic person, a radio analyst at UMass, and then quickly went to George Mason the next year with Coach Larinaga. And I do remember at that point feeling like Derek was so certain about his career and moving on and becoming a coach that is when I realized how much hard work and dedication was going to go into coaching. And I actually did not follow him to George Mason. We kind of traveled back and forth. I was living in Boston at the time. He did really well there. He loved it there. He loved working for Coach Larinaga, but was ready to move on. Next step, went to Youngstown, Ohio. I went to visit. He actually worked for Coach Robick, John Robick, who hopefully in future episodes we'll be able to have his wife, Heidi, on as one of our guests, very dear friend of mine. He had the pleasure of working for him for a year at Youngstown. I will say, not the most desirable place to live. And nope. And that's where I realized, wow, this profession is not going to be easy. This is not going to be an easy road to be married, have children, all of those things. Very difficult place to live. I went to church every day and just, prayed for prayed for guidance. I didn't know where I was, and we were young at the time. And then from there, Derek again was offered an amazing opportunity to return to work with Coach Calipari, and he went to Memphis for 8 years and just had an amazing experience, lots of luck, lots of good fortune. And again, I didn't live with him full time in the beginning. I did a lot of traveling back and forth because, as you know, Andrea, and we'll talk about this, like that was part of the difficulty of this profession, was balancing your own life versus completely diving in and supporting your husband and his career and all that goes with it.
Right.
You know, and I still wasn't quite there yet,
Mm-mm.
you know, to be 100% fully, you know, emerged. But we had much success. We were married. I got pregnant while we were in Memphis. And then Derek got the UMass job, and it was absolutely his dream job. We had always talked about going back to UMass, our alma mater, so many friends. Derek's family is from the area. It was dream come true.
Yeah.
Totally a dream come true for us. So we returned back to Massachusetts, and as a head coach's wife, that's where I realized these ups and downs, these stories we're talking about, our relationship. That's where you and I met. And, you know, that's where, you know, this becomes really, really relative, this podcast, to really like, let you know, you realize like, wow, we finally got the big job. We finally got the head job. Wow, this is amazing. And then it's like, wah, 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 you know, all the crap that goes along with it. And, you know, just to be clear, like you and I talk about this profession is amazing. The perks are outstanding at times, the travel. And we talk a lot about fans in this podcast and a lot of negative encounters, but I have to say, there are positive fans. There are amazing fans, super fans. So we should talk about them too. Right?
They're the ones that make the whole they bring magic. They also bring aggravation, but they, for the most part, when you win, they bring magic. They're the reasons why you get goosebumps when you walk into a place, right?
Yeah. Yep. So just to wrap it up, we spent 9 years at UMass. It was the best years of our career. And then, you know, unfortunately it ended, you know, not in our favor or how we would have preferred it to end, but I won't take away any of those experiences. It is my main inspiration for this podcast and meeting you is what we went through at UMass, because it was the highest and the lowest of what families and spouses will go through, I believe, in a typical basketball life. But just to wrap up, we ended back on our feet. Derek got a job right away at LIU Brooklyn. We're so grateful for the university and giving us another opportunity, and have already achieved some success. And we're really happy here. We're really happy living in New York with our son. And you know, you and I want to continue talking about all these things. I think we're a great duo, and yeah, I'm just ready to keep going and sharing and helping.
Exactly. Especially in this profession, I like to say, man plans, God laughs. You know, it's like
True.
you could say where you want to go, what you want to do, but that's not up to you. It's like, you know, my mom always used to say your journey was already made for you, and you just live it, and you just hope, you know, it's just what a blessed life we have, even to be in in the public job where like it's not just, you know, he's not like a plumber, he's not like a lawyer, you know, he comes home, he puts things away. It's like this is our, like, we've got thrown into this, like whether we like it or not. It's like we live and die by each game, and you're only as good as your last game. And it's not, his job is our life. It's not something that just pays the bills. It's a lot for a lot of people, you know, a lot for a lot of people. And that's why we want to talk about this too. Like we keep saying it. It's like, you know, yes, it's for fans. I know fans want to listen to this, to, you know, to hear other coaches and wives and, you know, whoever else we bring on, but it's also to help other coaches' wives. Yes, you know, there's going to be times that you're going to say to yourself, frig this shit, you know, like
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
like
I've thrown in the
geez,
towel
like,
a few times. Like,
oh,
I'm
same.
just gonna tune it all out like it doesn't even exist. I
Yeah,
mean,
and which is the easy thing to do, but it's if you literally if you sit there with yourself and say, like if you don't jump into it with him, and I could be the big like you are a sports fan, I am not like you know, season starting. This is not, I don't love this feeling. Like my furnace is turned on. I can cry right now. Like I can cry on command. I don't like it. I don't love the competitiveness. It's not
yeah,
natural to me.
yeah,
It makes me very nervous. I
yes,
don't love it. So it's hard for me to get through a season. And I think it's always been hard for me to go through this and to know that every game is like, is your fate. It's like, and it's public. So on top of you dying over how well your team's going to do, you also have, so many outsiders, chiming in and, adding to that. You
yeah.
can,
Oh
you can
yeah,
lose
I know.
yourself,
I know.
very
And
easily.
you can. I know. And
So
it's like you want everybody to root for you, but then you're like, oh my God, calm down. Like I can't handle all this.
only when it's good, like only
Yeah,
yeah, when we're good. Like, if we
I know.
lose, like, please shut up. Like they did their best. Shut up, go away. Like we'll do better next time. It's like, leave us alone. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's just, I'm a nervous person by nature. And, I don't try to show it as much. So, you kind of self-destruct a little bit and then you get resentful and, but the more, I mean, this is 25 years. So you have to learn to jump into it. It's what they're doing. What do you think? This is easy? It's like they're working their ass off. They're
I
trying to
know.
create a life for, they're trying to do something for themselves. And you know what? Like you're either going to be a cheerleader or get the hell out. It's
Yeah,
like you can't, there's no in between.
agree,
So I
agree.
learned that the hard, I'm not gonna say I learned it the hard way, but I learned it like, he wasn't, he's very driven and it was kind of like I'm doing something and that something is trying to get to his dreams and and it was either like are you in or you out kind of thing. And you say to yourself, okay, like, so I mean we started our journey, I was a freshman at Seton Hall and he was a senior and he took that year off, so he was even older. And it's so funny because I love saying this. It's my dad, my parents, both parents grew up in Jersey City, so of course they know St. Anthony's, Hurley's. And my dad every year we wouldn't, I mean, he wasn't a big basketball fan, but he would take me to the CBA St. Anthony's game, my brother and I. And it was always, it was wherever it was like CBA, and we'd always go to Delicious Orchards, which is like our favorite, it's like this little orchard place. And so, I knew that's what we had to do. And during the game, I bored as the game seemed like it was 4 hours, when you're just not interested, especially I was in 7th, 8th grade, 6th, 7th, whatever. But it's so crazy to me that like I was actually at a game where my future husband would be at, it's like my dad dragged me to these games and I wasn't watching, but like I always tell everybody I used to do the string bracelets, those, remember the
Yeah,
strings, and I used to
yeah. I feel like you were making them the first time I met you at Rhode Island. I think you were sitting at the table with your mom making the bracelet.
I was not. You idiot. I was
I
not.
could be making this up. I could be totally making this
You're
up.
freaking making it up.
You were doing a craft or something. It was like,
Oh, you know what it was? It was suits and sneakers. We were doing the buttons.
yes.
I wasn't making string bracelets. What the frig?
It was it was definitely, you were doing something. You were busy. That's all I know.
I'll do any. I'd be knitting like during the game. No.
Your
If I
hands
could, I
were really-
would. Oh my
I'm like,
God.
wow, she's good. I can't do
You're
that.
so funny. No, that was suits and sneakers with our buttons, which we're gonna be doing again this year. But anyway, okay, so I used to go to those games, not knowing like in the future. Now, okay, I applied to a bunch of schools. I wasn't the brightest bulb, but I wanted to go into fashion. I'll be the first to admit it. It's not that learning doesn't come easy to me. I'm more common sense, smart. There you go. You one or the other, you can't get both. So I applied to FIT, which I got into, wanted to be a fashion designer in the worst way. And my dad said to me, more or less, this is embarrassing, but like, you're not street smart enough for the city. Like as of right now, you're not, I don't want to put you in Manhattan. I'm not comfortable with it. He's like, so I also got into Seton Hall. which is another story.
Which
But
I
anyway,
think you have to be pretty book smart to get into Seton Hall.
okay,
Andy,
well,
right? Like it's a great
there's a
academic
backstory.
school.
Yeah, it is, but okay, whatever. Go away. I got in. And my dad said to me, and my mom said to me, like, why don't you get, and I was so like naive and, what is college? And, I want your core under your belt. I think you should go to Seton Hall for a year. And if you feel, once you get your core under your belt, then you can go transfer to FIT. So you know how it is to live away. My parents put me in a bubble. My mom would be the first to admit it. I didn't even, we weren't even allowed to watch the news really growing up. Like it was just how it was. Like I didn't know any bad things happen in the world. Like, New York was just New York, like, greatest city in the universe. So I was like, so excited to go. And they were like, no. So they sent me to Seton Hall, and I wasn't happy about it. And it was just around Christmas time. I wanted to leave. Like, I just said, I'm done. So that was before I met, like, it's always right before your freshman year of college where you meet your core friends, right.
Of course.
And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to stay. I really like it. I'll transfer to FIT my sophomore year, like I'll start my journey there then after my first year. And then, my good friend, Emily Griffiths, who I became she was a swimmer. She was dating John Yablonsky, who was on the Seton Hall team. And she would say, Andrea, please, I hate being the only freshman. Can't you please come with me? I'll hook you up with Danny Hurley. And I'm like, ew, no, like, no, I don't.
Exactly.
I don't is he a player? Like, what is he?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And
I said the same thing before I met Derek. I was like, I will not date a basketball player. No, thank you. Like,
I didn't even know the difference. Like, I was like, my dad, like, rest his little soul, is like, he's like, I'm going to get you basketball. Like, I'm going to get you season tickets for the basketball games at Seton Hall so you can go watch Danny Hurley play. I was like, who the fuck is Danny? Like, what? He's like, remember, his dad. And I'm like, whatever. And I was just so annoyed that I wasn't able to start my career, my life at FIT, that I was just like, no. I used to hang the tickets up on my little magnet board outside my door to say, and I used to say, like, take, like, I did go to a few basketball games. And the craziest thing, which I still have the ticket because I'm a hoarder, is my parents came up for I am. My parents came up for the senior game at the end of the year, and it was at where they play. It used to be Continental Arena. So I gave my dad and my brother my season tickets down, like, with the student section, and my mom and I sat, like, set up, and it was Danny's senior night game, which was bizarre. And I kept the ticket for whatever reason, but they were playing UConn. So that just, like, kind of is a little crazy to me, that I still, and when I came across it not that long ago, I'm like, UConn, like Seton Hall, UConn senior night, so that was weird. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was what is that? What's the end of the season? Whatever month that is. And then, my friend Emily still was pushing it. And she kept telling, Danny who I was, and you have to meet my friend. And we went to this bar called the Hall, which is not there anymore. But we went to the Hall, and she's behind me going like this, like, to me, but Danny was sitting on the corner. And I was like, what are you friggin' doing? Like, that's so embarrassing, So I said, now I have to go say hello. So I went over there, and from that second, it was like the weirdest thing. It was like, you look at somebody, and I swear to God, this is so cheesy, but I'm just like, there was just something about,
like, I'm going to marry him.
It wasn't even that. It was like, you're my person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, in this weird way. And
it's funny, when I met Derek, I didn't get into great detail, but just quickly, I'll add to your story. I met Derek at a party also at UMass, and one of his really good friends was dating my roommate at the time. And I remember him being at the party, but I ran from him. I was like, oh God, this guy keeps talking to me like he's the basketball player. I don't want to deal with it, so we later, he was persistent, and that's how we ended up being together. But that's how we actually met, in case anybody was actually really wondering.
at a party, like,
at a party at UMass.
Yeah. So, but it's just like and there wasn't, and it wasn't like he was the sweetest soul on earth. It wasn't like he wowed me or anything like that, but it's just like it was, I can't even explain it. It was just like, you look at somebody, you're just like, it was a weird, like, just a comfortable feeling. Like, when you meet somebody, it's kind of uncomfortable. And I was very shy, and it was like something about him. It was just
Yeah,
like,
you're like,
he's
this
my
is real.
person. And
Yeah.
I didn't even like him at that, like, oh my God, I have to date him. It was just like, oh, like, it was kind of like, ooh, like spacey. And then he offered to drive me home, my friends, which was a great thing because it wasn't in the best of areas. And he dropped my friends home. And then we ended up going out. He's like, we'll go out on, I can't go out Thursday. I think he's going to go out Saturday. It was a Thursday night we met. Friday, he's like, I can't see you tomorrow night. I have a bachelor party, which ended up to be, he got the Irish American Award. So he
Nice.
he lied about it,
Oh.
which I found out later because I looked at the date on the award. I was like, dude, this is like the day after we met. You said it was a bachelor party. That's another funny thing, but white lie. But anyway, so then we met Saturday, and and then ever since then, like, and it wasn't like, okay, we boyfriend, girlfriend, we this, we that. Like, it was just, we just hung out every day. We were just it was almost like a friend thing before it was.
Well, it's almost like that's where you guys became a team almost, like I see that about me and Derek too. Like, and I think that's indicative of a coach's wife too, to like, you got to really be a team with your husband in this profession. You got to work together.
1,000%. If you're not that's what this whole thing is about. Like, you're on the same team from the second you sign up.
You really are. You gotta be.
You have to be, and you have to work with each other. Like, it's more of a give than a take, because they can only give so much, but what they do and their lifestyle is what you have to take back as what as a take.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, I got thrown into this. It was kind of like a whirlwind of that. And I just can't, like I keep saying to you, I can't explain the connection that we had. But I met him in March. We were engaged by August. Now, I was 19 years old. So, and so it was to the point where, okay, so now we're engaged. And the only reason why we got engaged, let me just explain to that, is that he was going to go to Europe. I knew he didn't want to play anymore, because I would stay over in his apartment, and he actually, whatever that NBA, I'm so bad with this crap, but whatever the NBA tryout thing was, it was the answering machine days. So I'm sleeping at his apartment, and
I think one of them was, because I think Derek did one of them, Portsmouth or something.
Yeah. And there are people calling him, and they're like, Dan, we're at the airport. Where are you? Dan, and they call back, and I'm like, are you supposed to be somewhere? And he's just like, no. I kind of think he mentally checked out, like, this is, I don't want to play anymore, kind of thing. But then it ended up to be it kind of ended up to be like weird. It was just kind of just like, okay, we did what we had to do. And he was supposed to go to Europe. So he was going to go play in Europe. So we were at, I actually went to a camp with them. He was in the Pocono camp, and his Aunt Kathy was digging for passports. It's not because his agent said he was going to go play in Portsmouth. I mean, I'm not paying Portsmouth, but play in Spain. So he says, you're coming with me, right? I would go home. I told my parents, hey, can I go with Danny to, I'm going to go to Danny to Europe. Like, I'm going to go to Europe with Danny and to Spain. It's gonna be so much fun. And my parents were like, especially my mom was like, what, are you kidding me? Like, what are we running here? You have school, you have college. Like, there's no way you're going to Europe with Danny. Like, you're finishing school. You'll see him when he gets home. You're not, my mom's like, you're not married. And my mom has like a Jersey City accent. You're not married. You're not engaged. Get lost. You're not going. I'm like, all right. So, yeah. Like, what do you think we're running here? And I'm like, all right. So I did it. I was like, shit. Yeah. What are you thinking? So we ended up getting engaged in August. So I met in March. We were engaged by August. We ended up not going to Europe because we didn't. And he did coach with his dad that year at St. Anthony's High School. And then right before we got married, which was the following year, August of 97, he got an opportunity to coach with Kevin Bannon at Rutgers, which literally we were ever so grateful because that opened the door to college basketball.
Right.
It
I
was
know.
like, and he,
It's amazing how, people always ask that, like, how did Derek get into it? I said, well, I mean, let's be honest. He played at UMass for Calipari and, right at the
they
right
opened the
time.
door. They
Yeah,
opened the
like it just,
door.
he
Yeah.
got in the profession at a good time too, I think, where,
Yes. And they were hungry.
did
And
Danny know for sure, like he wanted to be a coach, like out of the gates?
yeah, I don't know if he knew for sure. I kind of
Well,
think
his
he was
dad
more,
was so,
yeah, but I think more he was wishy-washy about being a player than a coach. Like
yeah,
I kind of think he was more hesitant on being a player than he was a coach. Like, because it just didn't seem like he was all in with playing anymore. I just don't think his heart was there.
yeah.
But so then, the coaching thing, the door opened, and like I said, we will forever be grateful for that opportunity. And it was right before we got married, and he was he was like the video guy, and then he worked his way up like very quickly into
Yeah.
it used to be called I love this title, is restricted earnings coach.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
what Derek went. When Derek went to George Mason, I remember his first job. And yes, thank you to Coach L and his wife, Liz, for hiring Derek. It started his entire career, George
right.
Mason. And his first job was the camp. He ran their camp.
Yes.
And he had no help. I mean, I remember just like, I think his dad like helped him put up the hoops and stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think he made $7,000.
Oh yeah.
He rented a one room out of a house. I'm not joking. He
Yeah.
rented a bedroom out of a ranch.
That's crazy. Well, Danny lived at home. He lived with his parents. It was like in
Yeah.
the basement of Jersey City, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but then like we ended up getting married in 97. He started his job, and I learned very quickly what it was to be a coach's wife. I mean, I ended up transferring to Rutgers. Never got to FIT, but kind of switched gears and transferred to Rutgers. And so I would be taking classes, and I would be driving. We had an apartment right there in New Brunswick, and I would drive there at night. It would be like 9, 10 at night, and his car would be the only one outside. And and they'd have a little like a little piece of wood in the door, and I would go inside and be like, what the frig is this guy doing? He'd be in this little tiny room with like the black circles under his eye, going through like hours of video. And he would just work so hard. And I
Yeah.
was like, and I learned quickly, and he right away like kind of cut my head off about like he's doing something, like like this is
Yeah.
his job, like I'm not like, I had to learn real quick that his job was really his priority. And some people might be like, that's bullshit, but everybody works differently. And that's how he did it. And he worked his ass off. He really did. He ended up going to Croatia right before my son was born, right after my son was born, actually, which is a whole other topic. And I knew I had to get this kid out by, July, beginning of July. He was leaving and back then it was a whole month. So he did that. We were there for a few years. And then unfortunately the whole staff got let go. And then he went to St. Benedict's Prep. And back then you're just like, wait, St. Benedict, isn't that like high school? Is that going backwards in life? But he was a head coach there. And it was, we were there for 9 years, and that became like our safe place, our like family. And it was our family. It was like, this was when, I'm not going to even, there's stories about those kids that we would get phone calls from, I won't say who, to say that, from their families that they're itching, they're scratching, they're this, they're that. And here we are driving to Newark to, boil underwear. Like, I mean, we literally did the craziest shit. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you were it there, you were the dobo, you were you were everything,
Right.
you were the parent.
Mhm.
And I mean, I could tell stories from now until next week about
Well, and that's, that's also a kudos to assistant coaches. I will say, we've
Yes.
all been there,
Shit.
and they do work their asses off.
And the
All of
things
our
they
assistants.
hide, I know you guys hide a lot of shit. I know you
Yes.
do. Like, and I would too.
Yeah,
But
they are, they are definitely the glue that's keeping everything going, and
absolutely.
they have to deal with a lot of, and I say this from personal experience. I mean, I remember Derek being an assistant in Memphis,
Yes.
and I think he was more stressed out as an assistant coach as he is as a head, more
Yeah.
than a head coach. Yeah,
Exactly, because you're working towards something and you're working to prove
exactly.
yourself.
Right.
And yeah, so I mean, we were there for 9 years. He ended up in that time, he got a job offer, a couple of job offers that he didn't take. It was just comfortable. Like I didn't mind living paycheck to, it was like, it was our life, it was our norm, it was like, it was comfortable, it was around my family. And then he ended up getting the job offer for Wagner. Which was the hardest decision ever, but he ended up going to Wagner at Staten Island. Was there for a couple of years, which we're so grateful, for Walt Hamline and, all the Wagner. It's like they'll forever be part of your, like just your story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we were
Yes.
there for a couple of years. They fought their way, they worked their butts off, they coached their butts off. And then he got the Rhode Island job, which was a like dream, it's like, that's a whole other thing. So we ended up in Rhode Island, which I won't get into because, that's a whole, just relationships with schools and this and that, but
Well, another like
that's a whole, we could do,
podcast.
there's like so many branches of, we could talk about, but that in and of itself was probably like a blessing that I will forever, every week when I go to church, I thank God for that time we had at Rhode Island. I can cry now because it's just like, I'm just sensitive with the freaking season starting. And it was just something like, it was just it was like, to raise my kids in Rhode Island. And it was just the people, the school, oh my God, like I can't thank God enough for it. And then to come here. So we did 6 years there, and then now we're here. And it's just something that it's a journey that it's not for the weak. And I'm today starting the season, I have mixed emotions because this is not, I don't like the way I feel right now, but you're in it to win it. So that's
You
my
are, and
story.
this is raw footage of what it's like to be a coach's wife.
Yeah.
This
It's
is
like,
it.
I
You
could,
know?
if you want to cast me for a soap opera right now and you need me to cry on command, I promise you I would be so good at it. Like I could, like, it's just like you walk around and you have to keep it to yourself because you would never want to give, to push your bullshit on them during their season, so it's
Yeah,
like
well, like buckle in now because this is day one of the
today's day one.
craziest roller coaster of your life.
I don't like it. I don't
Start.
like it.
I know.
I don't like
I know.
it.
I
But
know, Derek, we talked this morning and we did the math again. And I'm like, this is how many years? And we went back to the radio job at UMass, and it's less than 30, more than 25. We didn't get the exact number right, but we're in this for almost 30 years.
yeah.
And that's a long time. And boy, are we grateful.
Yes.
Yes.
And it doesn't, and your emotions don't dull down. You're still, you don't get used to it. He doesn't, I
No.
don't think they get used to it.
No, they don't. The anxiety. I mean, I'm excited that they're just having a normal season so far this year. Like it's starting normal.
Yes.
Let's hope
I
it
can't
stays
wait.
that way.
Tonight, yes, we get to go into our places and see crowds and the people that make it magical, and and what this is all about. And I'm going to try to take in, I'm a nervous person, I'm going to try to take in the good parts of it, like the exciting parts of it, but it's a lot of work, but we're here to talk about it, and we're going to. So but okay, so our next guest, you want to talk about our next guest?
Our next guest,
Our first guest.
yep, which is she is our first. We are so lucky to be chatting with Danyelle Sargent, Musselman, head coach's wife of Eric Musselman, University of Arkansas.
Yes, we're excited.
Is as lovely can be. So we can't wait.
Very nice. Yes.
Chat with
Yes.
her.
We didn't get too deep because we don't want to piss anybody off. So we didn't really dig too deep, but she's lucky she got away with it.
She did.
But,
And this is a work in progress.
and
So
we have some really, I mean, her episode was amazing. We have amazing ones to come. So tune in to Bala's Wife and you will not be disappointed. How are you, Danyelle? Thank you so much for joining us today, being our first guest of the podcast. We're so excited.
No, I feel honored. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm going to tell you, Nicole and I, our very first meeting, when we said we're going to do this, we said, okay, we have to come up with the best first guest. Like, who can it be? And like I always say, I really don't know too many. I don't get into the basketball world. It makes me very nervous. So when she said your name, I knew it. Like, I knew it only because of your little peanut back a few years ago when I had to watch all the end of, the NCAA tournament when you guys got, so far, and your little one was just she was so funny. And I said, I know them. I'm like, they would be absolutely perfect. So thank you. We really appreciate you doing this for us.
So I just thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is definitely an honor. I did a little background, just so I had some good information to talk about. And I realized you and I have a lot in common. You're a Taurus and you were also a communications major at Florida State. Is that right?
Yes. Was that you? You were a communications major too?
I was, yes, at
Love it.
UMass. I actually went to
awesome.
UMass. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, my dream job was to be a sports anchor. And then of course I met Derek and that all went to the wayside and, very soon became a coach's wife.
It's hard. It's a hard balance. I guess I'm lucky I met my husband a little bit later in life, because I feel like if I would have met him when I was like fresh out of college, there's no way I would have been able to kind of maintain that dream and go into that career path while he was also pursuing his career. So I actually met my husband when I was working as a sports anchor and he was out of work. So that worked for a while. And then eventually, I think whenever our daughter was about 3 is whenever I just got so tired of flying I was on a plane every single week and it was just complicated, it was just real complicated. So we streamlined our life a little bit and I started staying at home. Although now I feel like I work more than I did before, just not on TV.
It seems to happen that way, right?
Yeah.
I know.
It's funny because like a lot of us, we've talked about, when you marry a coach's, when you marry a coach, you don't realize how like how grueling the job is. And it's 7 days a week during the year. And I would love to know who could actually have a career, especially when you have kids. It's like, he's never going to be like, you're a single parent, you have to figure out things. And when you're first starting out, you really don't have the money to hire so many people for around the clock, nor do you want to. You want to be with your kids. So unfortunately, we always kind of we never really fulfilled our dreams of doing something. I mean, at least you did. It's like, I never got to the point to even do it for a little bit of what I really wanted to do, which makes me a titch bit resentful, which is why this podcast is so special to me, because it's like, this makes me feel like at least I'm doing something to help someone. And, it's not easy when you have someone that a husband that's just never around. So I know that family is so important to you. And so you stopped doing that because it was impossible, right? You couldn't carry on.
We had a live-in nanny. We actually had to have a live-in nanny because Eric and I were both of us were out of town all the time. He was an assistant at Arizona State. And it got to a point where we're like trying to figure out when we can even go out and have a date night. And we were like, well, maybe in 6 weeks we can link up. And I was like, this is not what a family is supposed to be about. So I just had to make that decision. And it was the right decision. I've never regretted it one day.
Speaking of family, how do you it's so important. I mean, you still have a little one. I know you're a bonus mom. I love when you said bonus mom, for your 2 boys. And how do you incorporate family time into yours? Like, what do you guys do to make sure that you guys are, connected during the season?
Yeah, well, for the most part, my husband gets home for dinner. Now my daughter does competitive dance, so she's the one that's getting home later than everyone.
Later.
I'm like, how are you holding up dinner? We're eating at 8 o'clock at night because of the 11-year-old, but it is what it is. Anyone with a kid in like sports and activities falls into that. But generally, we do get to have dinner together. My one stepson, the older one, he actually lives in Fayetteville. He works for my husband. So he is around, and a lot of times he sees dad all day at the office. So he clearly doesn't want to come over and then have dinner with dad
Don't blame
anymore,
him,
but
right?
we can get him over on the weekend sometime. The one we don't see is my 21-year-old. He is a sophomore at the University of San Diego, and he surfs too much to be bothered with his family. And I'm not mad at that. I'm like, okay, I understand. But whenever he graduates, he wants to come here and be a grad assistant. So eventually we'll get everyone in one place. But really, we try to have dinner together on every night that we can. And it's just a time where, I have a no phones at the table rule.
You do? Oh, that's good.
Yeah. The husband loves the phone. The daughter loves the phone.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the phone, but I try to have no phones at the table where we can actually, look at each other and talk.
Yes.
That's nice.
And Danielle, just curiosity, how much do you guys actually talk about basketball when you're with family? Like,
I mean,
it's hard not to, right?
Not to, especially since I'm a sports person. I'm a fan too, and so it definitely takes over a large part of our lives. For me and Eric, we generally get in bed by 9 o'clock. Like that's our goal. That's what makes me happy. And we will watch a television show together. We're big into, whatever's on Netflix or Apple TV, and that's our date every night, and that's really
very important.
Yeah, it's so important. And both of us are like, this is our favorite part of the day, is getting in bed together and just getting to have that time together. And so sometimes we will not talk about basketball during that hour.
Yeah, that's great. That's so, so important. And I love that you hashtag GM of Team Musselman. That is just so awesome, because I do believe as the wives of coaches, we do run the show for the most part.
But we do. I mean, and it just, I was over at my husband's office. He just got new furniture, and I was over there with like a decorator trying to help get that looking right. And then, the day before, I'm organizing something. It's just the job description. If they wrote our job description down, it would take up like 2 pages of paper.
Yeah.
Wait, what falls under our umbrella? Like I say, like he'll say, I have a job, that's your job. Like my job is to handle the house, the kids, like my umbrella is huge. Like I wish I could focus on one thing only. But with that, you being a sports major, like you sports background, like do you really, how much do you get into the game as far as like looking ahead? Like, because this is what I don't do that. When I go to the game, I see who we're playing. I don't know if they're good or bad. Like, I don't want to know. How much do you really know? Do you study the game? Do you know plays? Like, do you, like, let's say, like when he comes home, would you dare say you should have ran this play, you should have done this?
No, I will not do that. I no, I'm not going to take it that far, but just as far as things that people are doing right and doing wrong, or just even like background knowledge of recruits games and other teams, I probably do look at it with a more with the basketball eye, as opposed to just like a fan eye who's just watching and enjoying the games. I would say that. And then we don't sit around and watch, NFL games, or we don't even sit around and watch full NBA games or anything like that, but we will sit around and watch college basketball games together during the season. So I'm a scout, I guess, as well.
Yeah. Derek and I do the same. I watch a ton of college basketball myself. I can say I came into the coaching world not really having a college basketball background, but now finding myself feeling like I'm really well versed.
Yeah.
It's just kind of inevitable, and you get that competitive edge as well, and you want to know more and more. So yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
I disagree. I do not want to know. I'm not. You know what? It's competitive. Being competitive makes me very nervous. Like I'm a very nervous nature. Like I don't like to be competitive about anything. Like, so I feel bad.
How does that work?
You know what? Sometimes he says it works. Like, I think he says sometimes like I embarrass him over things, like because I don't know enough. And this is what, year 20, almost 25. But I do it on purpose. It's not like I can't, grasp the game. It's like I get very nervous, and there's the less I know, the better I am. And, I said, do you really want to come home and have me say something about maybe you should have done this instead of this? And, and then when he comes home, even if it's a bad game, like it tears down our whole house. I don't need me asking questions or adding to it, and there's a lot of times at a season, if he comes in a bad mood, sometimes I send him right back out the door. Yes. And I say, you're not bringing this home. We deal with this enough. Yeah. Then you can come back, but it's not for me.
Yeah. I respect that. I wish I could be more like that, but I will say, my husband, it takes him 24 hours to get over a loss. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, unless it's just like a heartbreaker, you know what I mean? Where someone like hits a last second shot or something like that. By the time I'm home, I'm like, it is what it is. It's a long season. We move forward.
But do you hold on to that? Like I know we like, as far in my house, a loss goes until we win again. Like it's not 24 hours, shake it off. It is every day you come home like there's a death, walk on eggshells, intense. And he's not like a mean person. It just you get not very happy. Not happy and very quiet, and it's just it's very, very, very stressful. Like, I don't want to, you just know to stay away or to go near. Pretty much like sometimes he just wants you to be around when you don't want to be around.
That's about.
Yeah. But there's times like I wake up and I'm so nervous. Like, did we really lose? Did we really lose the game? Yeah. And I call it the furnace in your stomach. Like when the season starts, it's almost like a furnace is lit in your stomach, at that nervousness of, oh God, I hope we don't lose. Hope we don't lose. Okay, we didn't lose. Oh my God, we lost. And it goes on. And I do shed a few pounds during the season.
Yes, stress. So to that point, losing games, Danyelle, do you, and I have found myself doing this and then not doing it. And then, do you read social media after a loss?
No.
Do you read it good, bad, or indifferent, or not at all?
No, I really don't, because my husband has used social media as part of the program. So our family is really on social media a lot, and it is what it is. We've chose to kind of put ourselves out that way. And, that's how we sell out our arena and, get the fans pumped up and everything like that. So on one hand, we are big users of social media, but after a loss, I don't even get on, because it does. It is upsetting. Like it bottom line, it's upsetting. And so why get on and read that? So I just don't, because why put yourself through that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it can be brutal. People say really crazy things. And I think Andrea and I, we were both in the Atlantic 10. Danny was at Rhode Island, Derek at UMass, big rivalry. We've already discussed it in our first podcast. And we had a lot of stories about fans to share. Some good, some bad. Do you have any stories about a particular fan experience?
Well, the worst thing that happened, and it's so funny because it's sometimes you forget that it's a long season. And we started off, I want to say maybe 1-3 in the SEC. And we had 2 bad losses. Like we lost by 30, both 2 games in a row. And this is last year where we ended up reaching the Elite 8. But like at that point, it seemed like we were going to be like fired and out of here, and maybe this job isn't for us. But we were already feeling bad. And then in the midst of that, someone sent a letter to my house, and that's where I'm like, oh, no way. I'm like, there is a line. I'm fine if you want to bash us on social media, but when you want to get my address and send a letter about how much we suck to my house, that's where I have a problem.
Wow. And it happens, right, Andrea?
I mean, it's comforting to know that it happens, I guess, to everybody, and those are the same fans. And let me tell you something, fans, you either love them or you don't, and they could change. They're the reason why the place is so great. And it also they could also be so hurtful. So you love them and you have a love-hate relationship with them, but it's like when they cross the line, they can't, if you lose, but they're the same fans that love you to death when you do well. So
yeah. And you just don't know. Sometimes you don't know. They're like secret fans that like, they might be at your game cheering for you. And then they're the ones writing the notes.
Writing the
That's what
letters,
I find
yeah.
really creepy.
But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, it's like there were people, he's a person regardless of this job. And I'm a mom and I have an 11-year-old that lives in my house, and, invading our family home that's just not going to work for me.
no,
And if you listen to our first podcast, Andrea and I talked about that, that's kind of one of the inspirations for this podcast, is to be supportive for women. That's our general purpose, but also let people know we're real people. We have a lot of real life issues that we're dealing with, and it can be a lot. Just give us a little grace once in a while. Maybe.
Just once in a while.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I mean, you could go after, I don't read it either. Like not a big Twitter person but you can go after my husband. He gets paid for the job, is how I feel, but don't go after our players, because they don't want to do bad. Like they're trying their best out there. Like it's just, sometimes it's a sport. It doesn't work. So what is your relationship with your players on the team?
I mean, I feel like I am their bonus mom too. I mean, it's really funny because in the past, when we were at the University of Nevada, we didn't have a lot of freshmen. We had a lot of grad transfers. So it was an older team. Mm-hmm. And then we come here and we had a class of 4 freshmen. And it was funny because I remember everyone was at our house for, barbecue or something like that. And most people leave, and the 4 freshmen were there for like 4 more hours, like swimming, and then like, hey, are we going to like make s'mores now? And let's do this. It was so funny because, and I'm like, it's so different having freshmen. So the way that I look at it, we love having them over. We really want them to be part of our family and their families to be part of our family. That's kind of how we are as a university, not just the men's basketball team, but they all have my phone number. All of the parents have their phone number, have my phone number. And it's going to be, there's going to be some who are going to call you every week. And then there's going to be some who you don't hear from for the whole season. But
for years.
I just want everyone to kind of have their comfortability level and know that I'm here. Right. My 21-year-old that's at University of San Diego, he was at his grandma's house. My mother-in-law also lives in La Jolla. He was there like every weekend whenever he first went to school. So I kind of want our house to be like that for these kids. Like, we're like grandma's house. If you want to come get a meal, have a home cooked dinner, then come over. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
Yeah. Exactly. And I have a 13-year-old son, Max, and Andrea has 2 boys as well. So I always say, someday Max is going to go away to college, and what a bonus if he has this family that he can trust, go home to, be fed, especially when they're far away. A lot of these players travel from far away and they can't go home ever, so yeah, I think that's lovely. So great.
And they're babies. We have to remember they're babies. Like they come to school, and let me tell you something, they have some workload between practice and classes, and they're here the whole summer. I mean, they don't go home. They're children, and they need to know that, they're being watched, they're taken care of, and there is somebody out there that really cares about them. And you'd be surprised. I've talked to a lot of other coaches' wives that they don't know their team until they sit at the first game and open. I thought it was a lot of people do this, but from what I hear, it's not. And I just don't think that that's a way that a successful program runs. It's like you have to have a relationship.
Yeah, people are different. It's funny that you said that because I was the same way. And then one of our players that we have now, his mom said, we didn't know the former coach's wife. We never met her in 3 years of being there. And I mean, for us, I'm part of the recruiting process, so I would, I meet all these parents all the time. So that seems like something so crazy, but I mean, everyone has their own way that they go about things.
I guess so.
Yes. So moving along, we have so much to talk about. We could probably talk to you for 2 hours, but fitness.
Yeah.
Tell us about fitness. I read a lot. You are very into fitness. I just started Orange Theory. I don't know if
Yes,
you've heard of
I
that.
love Orange Theory. Yeah.
I love it. It's like fulfilling all of my needs right now for exercise. So talk to us about fitness.
It's just I come from like a family that's really big into fitness. I remember being like at jazzercise with my mom when I was 12, 13 years old. So it's just always been part of my life. And then I mean, now I honestly I feel like it's just stress relief. And I mean, we as women, you constantly do so much for other people, like on a daily basis. It's never ending. And so for me, just making sure that I get an hour that I give to myself, it makes me a happier person and it makes me a better person. Like this week, I haven't gotten to work out as much as I like to. And I was kind of complaining to my husband about it this morning. But so I just love it. It's my stress relief. But being a broadcaster, I'm not afraid to, get up and talk in front of people. And when we lived in Reno, I started being a spin instructor. And in my mind, I like belonged to this gym and they were looking for teachers. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I can take classes for free. You get a discount at Lululemon. Why not? I'll start with like one class a week. And then I absolutely fell in love with it. So it really became like part of my life for 4 years. I don't do that anymore. Now I've moved on to the Peloton and Burn Boot Camp and all these other things, but it's just, it's my stress relief and it's my me time.
Yeah.
That's good. Speaking of part of your life, charitable work. Nicole and I, we actually met through American Cancer Society, and kind of like we did it together through our university. And I know you're huge on that. So can you talk to us how you got involved with that and your gala that you just had, and what that means to you? Just you're using the platform that you have right now to really like make it work and branch out, which is all we want to do. So talk to us about that.
Well, it's funny because I never like grew up or did charity work in college. I wish I could say that I did. It never really crossed my mind too much. And then when we moved to Reno, when Eric got that head job, the community started asking me, hey, will you MC this event? And then just so slowly, it kind of spiraled and I just started getting involved in more and more things. And I was at the Nike retreat, and Margaret McCaffrey, whose husband is the head coach of University of Iowa, she is heavily involved with American Cancer Society. And she was like, hey, the Coaches versus Cancer Wives team is looking for someone to be the co-chair. And we want someone who's not afraid to, speak out and has ideas. And I don't know why, but I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And
I'll just add something else.
She emailed after and said, you can say no. And I said, no, you know what? I want to do this. And so that's how I really got involved. And I think, gosh, that was like 6 years ago, maybe. So maybe not that, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And so I just started getting involved there, and I was part of Suits and Sneakers galas there. I did a pink out game and raised a bunch of money. So whenever I came here, there really wasn't much of an American Cancer Society presence in Northwest Arkansas. And so our regional person came and met with me, and she said, you know what do you think about doing a gala? And at first I was like, no way.
Yeah.
They're really hard,
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get people to commit to those types of things. We know, Andrea, you and I know from experience trying to.
It's hard to do, but they said, well, you know what, we'll hire a staff person to work with you. And so I just went all in, and I'm not an event planner or anything like that, but I like had a vision of what I wanted it to be. And I really wanted it to be fun, et cetera, et cetera. I put together a great committee, and we raised over $300,000 on Friday.
What?
I know, I like tear up every time I think about it. It was a huge success.
That
It was during COVID. Yeah, we had to be at like lower capacity because of COVID, and something people didn't know anything about, and everyone had so much fun. So I think it will really grow. And I hope it's something that can like live on long after me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because cancer definitely touches everyone's life.
Exactly. And my mom is a breast cancer survivor. And so that's just where my passion and personal connection to the American Cancer Society kind of came into the equation.
Wow, that's wonderful.
inspiration, you know, when you hear other people, it's like what we do is like, you know, this whole podcast is about like inspiring each other. And when you hear somebody else, it's like doing a copycat thing. Like I, you know, kind of like I want to do what she's doing. You want to pick up things that other people, it kind of gives you a push to be better at what you are, because sometimes you get stuck of just being a coach's wife. That's not enough sometimes. I mean, you have a platform, use it. So thank you. That's like, it really gives you a push to really go. You keep in your head, I want to do something. You never actually do it until you hear, you know what? It's time. It's time to go get it done.
And I think start somewhere. Like you don't have to all of a sudden say, hey, I want to throw a gala for 300 people. You know, this seed was planted in our first season. I did a watch party at my house and there was 80 people here and we raised like $25,000. And I was ecstatic with just doing that. I thought that was amazing. But you just start something and then you can build on it from there.
Right. And again, it goes back to our original inspiration for this podcast. It would be really nice to have more of a national group of coaches' wives that could all come together and start really supporting each other and getting to know each other. We are all here doing the same things, but doing them different. And so nice that we can meet you and now have all these bigger ideas. And it doesn't have to be so, I don't know.
Totally.
Right.
Yes. So thank you so much for coming on, being our first coach's wife. We couldn't have had a better first coach's wife. Let me tell you something. I want to thank you for everything that you do. And, you know, hopefully you're going to inspire a lot of people to go out and just, you know, and you also pick up little things, you know, like, yes, some people don't know, you know, just having TV time that can save a marriage, you know, it can. It's like, yes, like one TV show a week can save your marriage together. It's like, it's crazy how the little things in life really make a difference. So thank you for everything.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
We're going to ask you one last question.
Yes.
We're going to ask this to every guest. So name one thing you will never sacrifice while being a coach's wife.
Oh, my girls' trips.
Oh, you were When are we going?
Yeah, I'm saying I talk to people and they're like, oh, I've never gone on a girls trip. I'm like, I go every year, sometimes twice a year. We're moving and you meet new people, but like nothing is like your group of girls that you've like always known, or that that you used to be friends with and you don't get to see anymore, or new people that you meet. And so I really do that every year. And it just gives me a chance to refresh and not talk about basketball and not be a coach's wife, and wear my sweats if I want to wear my sweats. I don't have to be or any of that stuff. So don't ever sacrifice that.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Great answer.
Well, we wish you all the best health, success to your program. And thank you again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Danyelle.
So much for having me. Nice to meet you, girls. I hope I can maybe meet you in person.
I hope so.
Or something we'll have to plan.